Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to my channel. This is Brad with Being Chill. Today I want to talk about why the MacBook Air with Apple Silicon is going to be a much bigger deal than people realize, and whether or not you should buy one if you're considering getting a new MacBook at the November 10th One More Thing event next week, which is supposed to launch the new Apple Silicon MacBooks. Now before we get into that anymore, I want to ask, if you're not already to, please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos just like these every week, Monday through Friday, so if you like this content, make sure you subscribe and click that bell, and you can stay up to date on all the latest tech news with me. Now let's get into it. So at the Apple Silicon event next Tuesday, we can expect to see the MacBook Air because almost all of the rumors have pointed to the fact we're going to get a new 13-inch MacBook Air with Apple Silicon. However, we are also going to likely get a 13-inch MacBook Pro refresh as well as a 16-inch MacBook Pro refresh, but we aren't sure if those are going to be Intel chips or Apple Silicon just yet. There's been conflicting rumors about that, so we'll just have to wait and see. However, I do want to key into why I think the MacBook Air is going to be a perfect suitable candidate for the Apple Silicon chips and why they might be great for you if you're looking to buy one. I'd say the most important reasons why people are buying MacBook Airs these days is because they want a thinner, lighter computer with a long battery life and a cheap cost. It's not really cheap compared to other Windows machines, but it is the cheapest Mac laptop that you can buy these days since they discontinued the 12-inch MacBook. Now, I do think Apple Silicon is going to help with all three of those things, and that's why the MacBook Air is going to be a perfect candidate for them. And the 5nm manufacturing process for these SoCs, or system on chip, and that combined with the ARM architecture is going to allow for these MacBook Airs to run much more efficiently than their Intel counterparts, which in turn is going to allow them to consume less battery without sacrificing performance in the long run. Now, Apple is going to have a choice here whether or not they want to include a bigger battery or the same size battery, or if they want to reduce the size of the battery to either make the device thinner and lighter, or so they can add other things that make the performance better or other sensors. Now, we don't know which way Apple's going to go with this, but we have seen estimates that these new MacBook Airs are going to have between 15 to 20 hours of battery life, and I'd say it's probably going to be near the top end of that because Apple really wants to make a statement here with the new Apple Silicon chips. And the previous MacBook Air had only 11 hours of battery life, so they're going to want to make a pretty substantial gain there to incentivize people to want to buy it. Depending on your workflow, you might even see better performance on these MacBook Airs than we saw in previous Intel MacBook Pros, simply because with the new ARM architecture and Apple heavily optimizing their applications for it, you might be able to get better efficiency and increased performance with the same hardware instead of having to worry about upgrading your hardware to get better performance. Now, another thing to note is that we don't know if Apple will be increasing the price on these or keeping it the same or even lowering it, but they do have the ability to, because now that they're manufacturing their own chips, they likely have a higher profit margin, and it's going to be up to them whether or not they decide to give that back to the consumers or to keep the prices the same. I doubt we'll see a price increase unless they add a lot of new features. I know rumors are speculating we could see Face ID, but other features like that may increase the price of the MacBook Air, but we'll have to wait till next Tuesday to find out about that. So as many people know, they are likely going to be removing Boot Camp from these ARM-based Macs simply because emulating Windows 10 and dual booting it on these devices is going to be nearly impossible in the ARM architecture. So people that are looking to buy these devices for gaming, even though they're not really gaming machines, you are going to be able to run Rosetta 2 more than likely, as well as some other translation services to run Windows-based games on your Mac. However, you will notice a decrease in performance on these already performance-strapped devices, and you're going to notice a bunch of bugs and a lot of unoptimized features like you'd find on the Windows 10 counterparts. Now, that's where the MacBook Air kind of shines here, especially in light of the future of cloud gaming. As you noticed, a lot of the big tech companies, whether it's Amazon, Facebook, Google, Nvidia, etc., they all are trying to push their new cloud gaming services down your throat. And even though they're very new and still not quite ready yet, I do think that it is going to pick up very soon, especially with cellular service getting almost as good as some people's home internet connections, with 5G rivaling even, fiber speeds in the best case scenarios. So I think cloud gaming is going to pick up a lot, and whenever you do cloud gaming, it doesn't really matter whether you're on your phone, your tablet, or what kind of computer you're on. They're all going to perform about the same. So if you have gaming in mind, then you're going to just get the cheaper MacBook Air and maybe shell out a little money per month to buy the game streaming services, which is going to allow you to use cross-platform across all your devices. Now, I know not everybody's going to want to do that. However, I do think that cloud is the future, and soon I think Apple will even pick up their own cloud services, maybe include their game streaming in Apple Arcade in the future, or even add some virtualization to iCloud, which is going to allow you to have virtually hosted machines, which can do more performance dependent tasks. All the money you save from buying a MacBook Air instead of a MacBook Pro is going to leave you with a couple of options. Obviously, option one is going to be just to save the money. Option two, however, you could buy a beefier gaming desktop or a Mac desktop for work and just leave it at home and connect to it virtually whenever you're out and about. Now, I'd say the one exception to this is going to be probably video editors who may need to transfer large files. And while this is possible through iCloud and other services, it's simply going to be too long of a transfer process versus just plugging in the data directly from an external hard drive. That money you save by not buying a MacBook Pro, you can upgrade your MacBook Air sooner. Maybe instead of keeping your device for 5 to 8 years, however long it is, you decide that you want to upgrade every 3 years, and so you can use that money and get 2 MacBook Airs in the same time you would have had 1 MacBook Pro. And while this isn't perfect for everybody and other people might not want to upgrade that often, this is going to allow you to stay up to date with the newest features and stuff so you don't feel left out when the new devices come out more often. Option 3 would be to buy the MacBook Air and wait to see if you want cloud gaming, if you want to game on this device, and then you could spend the monthly subscription to pick really any game streaming service that you want and play it across all of your devices. And if you decide that you need to do more intensive tasks on your MacBook Air, you can also buy access to a virtual desktop somewhere out there, which is going to allow you to run more intensive tasks at a pretty decent cost. Now, the costs for these are definitely going to be coming down in the next few years, especially as these companies are allowed to scale up even more, because the more customers they get is going to allow them to have even more devices serving the same amount of customers, and then that's going to in turn give you lower costs as well as better performance, better speeds, better reliability, and that's really what it's going to take for these services to start to take over. Now, with all that being said, I don't want you to think that I think that the MacBook Air is not going to have a good performance. In fact, I think it's going to have the best performance by a very large margin than any of the previous MacBook Airs that we've seen, and I think it could even rival some of the Intel-based MacBook Pros from recent years. Now, if you're an average user, you probably don't even need to take advantage of a lot of those cloud services that I mentioned, and you're probably going to be just fine doing web browsing, checking your email, and using Netflix or other media consumption, and this will be the perfect Mac for you. Now, if you're planning on doing more intensive tasks, you're probably still going to be fine, but don't expect it to perform as well as the MacBook Pros, which are going to cost you twice as much money. Now, another thing I want to point out is that Apple is planning on doing a cross-platform ecosystem with the release of Apple Silicon, where apps are going to start transitioning into being able to support your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, your Apple TV, etc., all from the same application. And so I think they're going to start coding to the lowest common denominator there, which could be an issue since your iPhone is going to be the lowest common denominator, and that's going to mean that your Mac can't take full advantage of the application simply because the developers are going to want to spend more time and money making sure the application works across all devices, and then later on circling back and making sure that the performance on the Macs is as good as it can be. Now, we are already seeing this on the App Store with certain iPhones, where apps are not going to work quite as well on the newer phones as they could, simply because developers are spending a lot of time catering to people that still have an iPhone 6, just because the market share of those people is too much to ignore, and developers aren't going to leave that money on the table. And so likely a lot of the apps that you use are never using the full potential of your phone, your iPad, or your Mac, simply because they are catering to the people that still have the older devices. And I think we can see that happen here with the cross-platform ecosystem starting to be implemented. Now, there are many people out there that will choose to spend the extra money up front and get a beefier MacBook so they can future-proof their device. However, technology is always changing and it's very unpredictable, which is why people that maybe just bought the 16-inch MacBook Pro last year, or even the refresh a couple months ago, or they just bought the 13-inch MacBook Pro, they might be feeling a little bit of buyer's remorse simply because now Apple Silicon is coming out, and that's not going to be something that's going to be backwards compatible with the older MacBooks that they just spent a lot of money on. So I want you to keep in mind whenever you decide whether you're going to buy a new Mac, analyze how much performance you actually need, what you plan on doing with it, and decide if you want to get the MacBook Air or the beefier MacBook Pro for some more money. Wrapping everything up, I think the new Apple Silicon MacBook Air, with its increased performance and better battery efficiency, which leads to longer battery life, and a thinner, lighter form factor, and perhaps even a lower cost, is going to entice a lot of people into buying it, which I think they should. I think over 90% of the consumer base is going to be just fine with a MacBook Air, and in the future I believe that most people are going to be running around with just a tablet or some other type of Chromebook or MacBook Air device, which doesn't necessarily have as much computing power, but is still very capable of connecting to all your peripherals and doing all the intensive work in the cloud. So let me know down in the comments below whether or not you think the MacBook Air is a good buy or if you plan on buying it. And also let me know what you think about the future of cloud services, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. I'd love to have a discussion down in the comments. Now, if you did like this content, make sure you smash that like button. And once again, I upload new videos every week, Monday through Friday, so make sure you subscribe and click that bell, and you can stay up to date on all the latest tech news with me. Now, if you do click that bell and you go down below in the comments right now and you type hashtag notification squad, you can get a shout out in the next video just like I'm about to do right now. So the two shout outs I want to give on this video is going to be Living on iPad, who has a great channel. He does other videos on Apple stuff just like me every day. So definitely go check him out if you're interested in that. And the other person is going to be Shalom Paliyam Haritha. Sorry if I butchered that name, but I did my best. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace!